Boop. There we go. Alright. Let me open the live chat so I can see it. Give me a moment. Oh my god, this shouldn't be so hard to get to my stupid channel. Alright. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna wait for people to show up because I really wanted to do this and I really want to show some people. People came. Hi. Hi! Thank you! I've been wanting to talk about this for months. You have no idea. But you better be working. You better be working. Oh my god. Thank you. Thank God. Because network tweak. Yeah. It's having a little moment. But today, or tonight rather, or whatever time it is for you, I'm going to be going over a documentary made by Hammerson Peters, who's really awesome. They make short and long documentaries about all sorts of cryptids and confusing mishaps, some stuff that you guys are probably familiar with, such as creepypastas and The Break and stuff. But then it's going to go into a little bit of, from what I assume would be unfamiliar territories. If it's not, that's great. We all get to learn something, or I just get to re-listen to something that I really, really like and rant about it. So it's technically like a little movie night. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, and by the way, there's not much video footage for this. There's sometimes some photos, but it's mostly just some background and then the narration. So that's just a fair warning. Bro, the cryptids you told me about earlier kind of scare me. Which ones? Like, which ones? We talked about two. One I can understand. The second one, yeah, definitely. But also, I think they're kind of neat. They all scared me. Even the cougar. Gonna buy stuff for the movie. What do y'all want? Bring me my geese back. Damn, bro. I don't know. I didn't get that far. I didn't think anyone would just be like, hey, I'm gonna buy snacks. Yes, even the cougar. Dying ladies. It's terrifying. But that one cougar attack video was really, really funny. Demon Girl 99.
Every year, people all over North America report encounters with strange creatures that have no place in current taxonomic literature. From sea serpents to Sasquatches, most of these mysterious animals have long featured in regional folklore. A small minority, like the Mothman of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and the Man-Wolf of Elkhorn, Wisconsin, have...
That makes me want to go off on a huge-ass tangent, because I did an entire week of research on Mothman, and I wrote down a bunch of shit, and I found a cool sighting in Point Pleasant from this year. It makes me want to go on a rant, but I'm going to stay focused. I'm going to do this. But I might have to do that later if I remember.
No precedent at all. In recent years, a new sort of monster sighting has emerged. These sightings are connected with a very special kind of mythology, one which far postdates the shadowy advent of native tradition and frontier lore.
Sorry.
These monster myths derive...
Alright, Alright, just gonna say this completely right here. I know it comes off. No, stop! But some of them do look a lot like actual cryptids, not Siren Head. Siren Head's stupid, but such as like the rake. That's the one they're going over here. That's important. The fucking creepypasta images made me laugh a little too loud. The Siren Head one is funny.
From a unique variety of urban legend, which has its origins in our burgeoning age of the internet. A fictional, viral horror story called the creepypasta. Creepypastas are scary stories and images that proliferate across the internet to such an extent that they graduate into digital folklore. Instead of transmitting by ways of playgrounds, after-school hangouts, and backyard campfires, the breeding grounds of traditional urban legends, these tales spread via chainmail emails, online forums like Reddit and 4chan, and websites designed specifically for their dissemination. Perhaps the most well-known creepypasta is the tale of Slender Man, a tall, thin, faceless, suit-clad gentleman who preys on children. The Slender Man character was invented on June 10, 2009, by a Japan-based American expat for an internet Photoshop contest. Images depicting this imaginary character and his associated backstory began to circulate throughout various online forums, and in no time the...
I know this isn't the point, but hold on. Trust me, it's funny. It's funny. I have a picture. It's so bad! Oh my god. Oh boy, she has a picture. I do have a picture. It's funny. I have a funny picture. I have a hee-hee-hoo-ha picture. When I heard who plays on children, when I heard that, I was so close to pausing the video and saying, Eli, Eli Mater, what Eli Mater does.
Slenderman meme went viral. Creative internet users began to expand on the Slenderman legend and formulate entire stories around him, transforming him into a full-blown 21st century boogeyman. In a 2012 interview for BBC Radio 4, Slenderman's creator, Eric Knudsen, observed that, quote, even though people realize that Slenderman was created on an internet forum in June 2009, some people believe that he might be real. 2 years later, this strange reality made international headlines when 2 teenage girls from Wisconsin stabbed their friend half to death, in the hope that their crime would earn them a home in Slenderman's supposed mansion in the woods. Slenderman is not the only creepypasta monster to escape from the internet and reify itself in the material world, or at least in the minds of imaginative internet users. Another virtual invention that makes its appearance from time to time is a creature known as the Rake. The Rake myth had its genesis in late 2005, when an anonymous poster on the image board website 4chan decided to invent a new monster. The poster described his brainchild thus: humanoid, about 6 feet tall when standing, but usually crouches and walks on all fours. It has very pale skin. The face is blank, as in no nose, no mouth. However, it has 3 solid green eyes, one in the middle of its forehead, and the other 2 on either side of its head, towards the back. When it attacks, a mouth opens up, as if a hinged skull that opens at the chin, reveals many tiny but dull teeth, unquote. This monster, which appears to have been inspired by the so-called crawlers from the 2005 horror film The Descent, evolved throughout the 4chan thread, gradually transforming into a gaunt, naked, pale-skinned human-like creature that crawls on 4 long, spindly limbs. This entity was dubbed the Rake. It would be several years before the concept of the Rake gained traction in the creepypasta community. In December 2008, posts featuring this made-up monster appeared on the Russian social networking site LiveJournal. In April 2009, the creature returned to 4chan, its birthplace. 2 months later, the Rake made its way onto somethingawful.com, where it served as an inspiration for Eric Knudsen's Slenderman. By 2010, the legend of the rake was spreading like wildfire throughout the internet, infiltrating all manner of creepypasta websites
said
and
pasta's so goofy. Yeah. That's a thing about that, but I could work with it. It's just a little bit funny. The R.
during fan art and creative fiction, which added depth and color to its mythos. Then, in 2012, something incredible happened. Internet users, ostensibly in earnest, began reporting frightening encounters with emaciated, pale, hairless, man-like creatures that crawled on all
Oh, no. Crawlers and all sorts of cryptids, at least most of them have lived long before people, so, or long before we can even remember or document, so, but imaginations do come up with similar things, so, yeah. It'll go over that.
apparently oblivious to the fact that the objects of these encounters bore striking resemblance to the fictional rake. Internet users attempted to equate these entities with characters of Native American mythology. Some suggested that they were skinwalkers, medicine men of Navajo lore who possessed the ability to transform into animals. Others proposed that these bony humanoids were manifestations of the Wendigo, an evil cannibalistic spirit of Cree and Algonquin legend. Others still began to invent new names for these creatures, such as flesh gates, goatmen, and crawlers, the latter evoking the 2005 movie villains who likely helped inspire the rake in the first place. It would be tempting to dismiss these sightings as attention-seeking hoaxes or innocent misidentifications owing to the power of suggestion, were it not for their chilling profusion. The staggering quantity of reliable witnesses who claim to have seen these creatures, coupled with the fact that many witnesses appear to be ignorant of the urban legend which their sightings evoke, suggests two almost inconceivable possibilities. That the creator of the rake meme, through some mysterious process, unconsciously contrived an entity that already existed, or that the human imagination somehow willed these beings into existence. These bizarre notions beget the uncomfortable question: what came first? The monster or the myth?
Now, obviously, the cryptid, came first, but rake meme. Obviously, the cryptids came first. Paintings of them have gone back since ancient prehistoric times. Well, not prehistoric times, but like times of the cavemen. Cryptids have walked among us for many, many years, and it's obvious people are just ignorant. And they're good at disguising themselves, and they're humanoids like this are, like this documentary is going over the crawlers, are being seen more because they live in caves and in woods, and since so many of their homes are getting destroyed, they're coming out more in the world, and people are seeing them more often in the recent years, and they're like, what the fuck? Times of the caveman. I just got my friend to fall for auditor. Fuck yeah!
In January 2019, a northern Canadian named Don Herbert shared his own crawler sighting with this author. Herbert is a miner who hails from the remote town of Hay River, Northwest Territories, located on the southern shores of Great Slave Lake. He works in bi-weekly rotations, spending 2 weeks at the mine, followed by 2 weeks off at home. One night in mid-August 2018, during his annual summer vacation about a week prior to his scheduled return to work, Herbert found himself alone in his truck, driving through the woods on the Northwest Territories Highway 2, more commonly known as the Hay River Highway. This stretch of road is one of the most remote thoroughfares in all of Canada, beginning on the shores of Great Slave Lake and skirting the western bank of the Hay River before joining the Mackenzie Highway 38 kilometers to the south. Drowsy, road-weary, and anxious to get home, Don was a few miles from town when a pale figure emerged in his truck's headlights, crouched on all fours in the ditch on the left-hand side of the road.
Herbert is a miner. Stop! Oh my god. Farnet Fucking Modern Reviews, do you like miners? Yes. Talking oh my god.
From wolves to wolverines, Don had encountered plenty of animals during nighttime drives through the boreal wilderness. But this creature was unlike anything he had ever seen before. Its skin was grayish-white and completely hairless. Its head, which he estimated to be only slightly smaller than his own, was bald and didn't appear to have any ears. Aside from a pair of dark eyes, its only facial feature was a cruel-looking beak-like mouth. Its legs were long and spindly, and appeared to taper sharply towards the feet, which were obscured by long grass. The creature, which impressed Don as being highly intelligent, appeared to notice him in the driver's seat. Baring its beak-like teeth, it crouched slightly, dug in with its front legs, and launched itself at Don's truck, leaving a small cloud of dust in its wake. Instead of slamming into the side of the vehicle as its course indicated it was likely to, the creature turned deftly on the side of the road and loped alongside the truck. Alarmed, Don stepped on the gas and raced for home, leaving the frightening creature behind in the gloom of the forest. In the months that followed his horrifying encounter, Don spent his free time attempting to identify and track down the strange animal that he saw, secretly fearing that it was a demon. The following is Don Herbert's own account of his search for the mysterious crawler, lightly edited by this author for the purpose of concision and continuity, which he has generously allowed me to publish for the first time in this article. During that remaining week, I did not return to the location of the encounter with the creature. More specifically, I could not return to the location. I was now absolutely terrified to do so, even in daylight, not a chance. Around this time, things were starting to sink in, and I started to notice some fundamental changes starting to happen with my behavior. I reside in town, and my home faces the Hay River. The house itself is set back a ways from the street, resulting in a fairly long driveway of maybe 30 feet or so. I can walk across the street in front of my home and access a nature trail that follows the river. On the other side of the river is wilderness, save for a gravel road that provides access to a First Nations reserve. Directly behind my home, there is a green area as well. A couple of days after the incident, I was taking my garbage to the curb after dark. There is a street lamp across the street, so it wasn't entirely pitch black. However, as I was carrying my garbage can to the curb, I felt a sense of nervousness starting to develop. It became worse the closer I got to the woods on the opposite side of the street, at the end of the driveway. As I progressed to the street, I couldn't help but to continue to scan the tree line on the opposite side of the road in both directions, watching for any signs of movement. After I placed my garbage can at the street, I could not bring myself to turn my back to the darkened woods out of a deep sense of fear. To return to the house, I backstepped the length of the driveway, keeping a close eye on the tree line until I reached the front end of my truck, which was parked in the driveway. Only then did I turn around to make the final distance onto my front deck, then into my house with my back to the woods. I knew then and there that the encounter with the creature had affected me more than I cared to admit.
More authentic than it already is in the actual documentary, but when I was actually really impressed by this when watching South Park once, because they did a really, really good job at depicting it. But when you encounter a cryptid, it's, oh, maybe I can help you figure out what that is, or, oh, it's going to be okay. They're going to say you're crazy and that you're hallucinating. When really, sometimes, and most of the time, if you don't have any, drug substances or mental illnesses, the case is that you did see a cryptid. I've seen a cryptid once. I once thought I saw a member of the Fae, but I don't think it was a Fae because, I don't live where they live, but I don't know what it was, but it was right here. So, it's fucking crazy. South Park is mostly satire. No, I understand that. I completely understand that. I'm just saying that even though it was, part of the joke and, the whole, episode, it actually represented it really well. I got chills down my spine because that's how it feels. Goddamn. You've seen a cryptid before. Yeah, technically. It's scarier when you don't know anything about it, well, it actually depends on the cryptid, but for me, it was a shadow person. So it was spooky, but once I did my research, it wasn't, and I got rid of it. So, yeah. It wasn't just me. We had a problem in the neighborhood. Everyone else was seeing them too. Mostly my brother. But I taught everyone how to deal with them, and they went out. So they're gone now.
Up until that point, I was trying my hardest to put the incident out of my mind and continue on as normal. I did not want to even start thinking about it. Every time my thoughts wandered back to it, I would try thinking of something else entirely. I didn't even want to begin to try and form an opinion. I was hoping I could just forget about the encounter altogether and simply move on. Well, let's just say that's easier said than done. When I got back into my house after putting the trash out, I sat down on the couch. I realized at that moment in time that
imagine shadows messing with people. I know it sounds weird, and I know that everyone's gonna most people would say it was a or like a shadow or something, but it was literally a 3D shadow of a full-grown man's body. And I could see that it was 3D. I could see it was like a actual body. So I know what I saw. I looked at it for like 30 minutes. It wasn't sleep paralysis. I could move. So I know what I saw. I saw it. So, yeah.
there was no way I was going to be able to avoid confronting the subject. The simple fact of the matter was, those 4 to 5 seconds on the highway that night had changed my life forever, whether I tried to continue to deny it to myself or not. And so it began. I asked myself the one question I was trying my absolute best to avoid from the very moment I passed by the creature and the encounter ended. What in the hell was that? I returned to work for my 2-week rotation shortly after that. I started to tell the story to as many people as I could, in the hopes that someone may have had a similar story or shared a similar experience. I wondered if I'd had a hallucination. I surfed the web for images similar to the creature I had seen. I read reports of sightings of strange creatures in the hope that...
Dude, emo girls are fucking hot. Don't even need to elaborate.
Someone out there may have experienced a similar encounter. I was sincerely hoping to find a natural explanation for what I had seen. When I started looking for information on the creature, there were only 2 options at this point that I really cared to entertain. The first, and most probable in my mind, was that I had experienced a hallucination of some sort. What confused me most about this theory was that I had not only seen the creature, but I had heard it as well. The experience just seemed too real. The second option was that I had perhaps witnessed a species of animal never before seen or reported. This is where I was officially introduced to the world of cryptozoology. Now, don't get me wrong, I was not totally ignorant of the cryptid world prior to this encounter. In fact, I probably possess more knowledge about the subject than most average people. I currently prospect the Nahani.
I knew you were gonna say that! Emos are awesome, bro. Especially since I fell in love with an emo. I knew you were gonna say that. I was waiting for you to say that. I was watching the chat, my eyes staring directly at it, just waiting for you to say, I'm in love with an emo girl.
Region, and earlier in life spent 2 seasons placer mining on the Liard River just a ways upriver from its confluence with the South Nahani. You can't research the area from a geological perspective, in a search for minerals, or frequent the region without becoming aware of the mysteries surrounding the area. I have always tried to keep an open mind about things, but the moment of my
Damn, am I that predictable? I mean, yeah, when you're talking about emo people.
encounter was the first time I actually thought that some of the stories I've read and some of the tales I've heard over the years could potentially have some measure of truth to them. Frustrated by his inability to identify the creature, the incredulity of his co-workers, and his newfound fear of the wilderness, which infringed upon his lifelong love of outdoor recreation, Don resolved to find the creature and kill it. I returned from work on the evening of
Don't kill cryptids. Unless, depending on what cryptid it is.
September 4th, 2018, arriving home at just after 8 o'clock p.m. As we were landing at the airport, the sun was just starting to dip below the horizon. Tim, a friend I work with, who was also on the flight, kindly offered me a lift home from the airport. Tim was the first person to whom I...
You know, when I was younger, I saw some animal, and I still don't have any idea to what it was. It looked vaguely avian. I could definitely help you out with at least talking about it. It could have obviously just been a bird. But, I mean, yeah, there's tons of shit, so... Possibilities are endless. The likely story that it is... Most likely it was probably just a bird. Yeah, it was most likely just a bird. Or a species of waterfowl or something, but... Yeah, I'm down to talk about that if you ever want to. Must have been a monkey.
Relayed the story of my encounter. I had been very anxious to speak with him 2 weeks earlier, as I waited for the flight to the mine. In the past, Tim has both hunted and trapped to make a living. He has extensive knowledge of the subject. I thought that if anyone would have seen or heard of anything like this creature, it would be him. When Tim dropped me off at home, he was then heading to his own home and family. They reside on an acreage about 10 minutes south of town, in the direction of where I saw the creature. Tim's family also owns a secluded cottage along the Hay River near the Alberta-Northwest Territories border, and as such they spend a lot of time on the highway traveling back and forth, passing the location where I had seen the creature. Tim knew I intended to try and find the track that evening and wished me luck. When he dropped me off at home, I quite literally tossed my bags inside the door of my home, got in my truck, and proceeded to head out on the highway to where the encounter with the creature had taken place. At this point in time, the encounter was all I could think about. It was very quickly becoming an obsession, if indeed it hadn't already. Before I could even begin to move forward, I had to find the answers to one fundamental question. Did it leave any tracks? Visions and spirits and hallucinations do not leave physical tracks. 3 weeks had now elapsed since the encounter. I didn't feel I had much chance of success in finding any tracks in the ditch where I first noticed the creature, or on the shoulder of the highway where it approached me, as it had rained a few times in the 2 weeks I was at work. I was hoping beyond hope that I was not already too late. Even with the sun now behind the horizon and darkness fast approaching, I had to go. I could not take the chance of one more minute of time elapsing before I had the opportunity to find that sign. I felt my very sanity now hinged on finding that one single particular track on the shoulder of the highway. This was not only a search for a strange creature, but also an attempt to confirm that I wasn't on the path of early dementia or beginning to lose grip on reality. On the drive out, I was trying to reconcile the fact that this could go 2 ways. The first was that, if I found the tracks, it would mean the creature is real. The second was that, if I didn't find the tracks, it would mean that I'm losing my mind. Neither option was very appealing. It was not the most pleasant drive, to say the least. I slowed as I approached the area the encounter took place, and there it was, the skid mark the creature had left, just where I thought it would be. I parked on the side of the road about 20 feet from the track. I got out with my iPhone on record to get some video I could look at later. I was not stepping 1 foot off the pavement, however. I scanned the area with my phone as long as I dared and got the hell back in the truck and started heading back to town. I had to get Tim. I had to get Tim. I had to get Tim. That was all I could think as I drove back to Tim's place 10 minutes away, hoping that I could get him to take a look at the track before dark. I could not stop myself from imposing on Tim, who had just returned to his family after 2 weeks. I just had to get Tim. Tim was gracious enough to come out with me and examine the track. He offered his opinion that it looked similar to a goat track, but since the track was at least 3 weeks old, you would never be able to tell for sure. This would be unusual, as goats aren't known in the region. As Tim was now with me, I managed to summon the courage to now actually step off the pavement and have a look.
Now see, this is important. If someone's willing to whip out evidence for cryptid encounters, that's how you know it's most likely authentic, because people are gonna say shit, and sometimes they're not gonna have evidence. But if people say shit and they have evidence and they just whip it out, I mean, unless it's obviously tampered with, it's kind of usually authentic.
actually step off the pavement and have a look in the ditch where I first spotted the creature. In the dim light, I could tell something had left signs of activity, but the signs were only faintly visible due to their age. I also followed the path it took up the ditch towards the gravel shoulder and found its approach tracks as well. We didn't spend a great deal of time investigating the tracks due to the failing light and soon headed back home. It was dark as I dropped Tim back off at home. The tree line across from my driveway was dark as I returned home to the couch. I had some thoughts to process and a heart to get back into my chest. While having my coffee the next morning, I decided to try out a new hobby and become an amateur cryptozoologist. I intended to approach the hunt for the creature in a scientific manner the best I could, and let the experts come to their own conclusions based on any evidence I could gather. Finding the tracks made me confident that I was dealing with an animal. My former anger subsided into fascination. I decided to set out to prove that this thing exists. Don Herbert began his investigation at the abandoned gravel pit, located about a mile from the site of his encounter. The area was perpetually crisscrossed with animal tracks, and Don hoped that the mysterious creature might leave some sign of its presence there. For nearly 2 weeks, he checked the site every morning for fresh prints. On the 12th day, his diligence was rewarded. There, in the frost-encrusted soil, were 2 pairs of strange animal tracks, which he interpreted as belonging to a mother and her offspring. Herbert reasoned that the presence of a young one might explain the creature's hostile reaction on the highway. Perhaps the creature had been attempting to chase him off, or direct his attention away from her progeny. Herbert proceeded to search for the creature's den in the woods near the site of his encounter, on the side of the highway closest to the river, reasoning that the creature's hairlessness was an indication that it hibernated during the winter. During his search, he came across several more of the strange prints.
Hi, kitty. Hi, kitty. Alright, I gotta let my cat in. Yeah. Hi, kitty. Hi, kitty. I'm here for you, Eli. You... Alright.
These tracks often appeared in the vicinity of wolf tracks, which Don took as an indication that the creature is a scavenger which subsists on the leavings of predators. On September 17, 2018, Don Herbert discovered the outlet of an old drainage culvert which was covered with fresh vegetation, as if someone, or something, had attempted to conceal it. He suspected that this might be the creature's den, and set up game cameras to monitor the entrance.
Talk about down bad. Ah!
When the cameras failed to yield any interesting footage, Don crawled into the culvert and found it empty and unusually clean. Don Herbert took several photos of the strange animal's tracks during his investigation, and showed 4 of the best of them to experienced animal trackers with whom he was personally acquainted. None of the woodsmen were able to identify the tracks. He then sent the photos to the Alliance of Natural History Museums of Canada. The Alliance forwarded the photos to several biologists, none of whom were able or willing to interpret them.
Can't lay down on the line.
The author of this piece later sent Don's photos to 2 expert animal trackers, one of them a distinguished Canadian hunter, who preferred to remain anonymous. Both experts claimed that the tracks in 3 of the photos were too faint to accurately identify, but agreed that the track featured in Figure 3 is clearly that of a wolf. After doing
speaking of weird tracks, I was out in the woods the other day, and obviously it's going to be gone now, because it's been raining, but I found a weird-ass track, and I did get pictures of it. Not sure where my pictures are, because my photo storage is a mess, but I should definitely find that, because that was fucking, that was weird. I showed Eli. Eli knows. And you saw it compared to my hand and how big it was, and it wasn't a bear. Bear prints ain't built like that. So I don't know what the fuck it was, and it was too big to be a wolf, so...
Little research of his own, this author, who is admittedly a complete novice when it comes to interpreting animal tracks, observed that the tracks in Figures 1 and 2 appear to bear some resemblance to the prints left by wolverines. When asked to produce a sketch of the mysterious animal he saw, Don sent this author an illustration made by DeviantArt artist Demon Girl 99, which he claimed was very similar to the creature he witnessed. In private correspondence with this author, Demon Girl 99 claimed that her illustration was based off of
Yeah, I remember that, but I was confused. You were confused? I don't fucking know what it was.
another image produced by fellow DeviantArt creator Cryptidical. The original piece features the Fisherman, a rake-like monster which Cryptidical invented. In an accompanying description, the artist explained his creation thus: much like the Slender Man and the Tall Gentleman, the Fisherman is a mysterious humanoid entity which seems bent on creating terror and fear in its wake. It has only been seen around water, and often shows itself to small groups or individuals of its choosing. Its figure has never been glimpsed in full light, but from what can be understood from witnesses that come across it, it is extremely lanky. It often walks on 4 limbs, and never on 2. It's agile and coordinated, and seems to be able to guide its long appendages with ease and grace. Don Herbert assured this author that he fully intended to continue the search for the mysterious creature, which he believed to be an undiscovered species of terrestrial origin, and agreed to furnish me with any updates on his progress. In November 2019, 9 months after—
Bro, I don't know what these fucking ads are keep popping up on the side. I don't know where they're coming from, but I don't know, dude. They're there.
his previous correspondence, Herbert got in touch with this author a second time, claiming to have finally photographed the creature with trail cameras he had set up for that purpose. Attached to his message was a startling nighttime photograph of hibernal taiga, in the left background of which, in the shadows of the forest, crouched a pale, black-eyed, malevolent-looking creature, identical in appearance to the mysterious roadside monster described by Herbert.
Eli's probably shitting his pants right now.
The excitement which this tantalizing new development engendered in this author was tempered somewhat by one of Herbert's follow-up photographs, which depicted the same patch of boreal forest in the summertime and in daylight, its features unobscured by snow and darkness. In this second photo, in the same spot at which the creature lurked in the winter photo, sits a
Damn, bro, no need to type in all caps in the live chat.
tangle of branches. In this author's opinion, at least, this snarled foliage bears vague resemblance in both shape and dimension to the sinister-looking figure from the winter photo, hinting at the possibility that the disturbing form constitutes little more than a cluster of scrub covered with snow, its frightening appearance merely the result of pareidolia, the human tendency to perceive human-like features in random patterns and formations. Then again, Herbert's trail cameras only take photos in response to movement. Something caused the shutter to open on that night the picture was taken. Was it a feather or a fragment of greenery blown by an errant gust of wind? The night appears to have been calm and still, judging from the state of the trees. Had a squirrel or an owl skittered into the frame? No such animals appear in the photo. Or could the camera truly have responded to the motion of the same spooky creature witnessed by Don Herbert on the side of the Hay River Highway, crawling its way through the snow? Intriguingly, Don Herbert is not the only Canuck to report an encounter with a crawler in the Canadian backwoods.
Alright, so that is the end of the first encounter in this. There are about 4, but the first one's really detailed, and I think it really gives a good kickoff to the whole entire documentary. But the things I really liked about it were the things that I just enjoy about this guy's channel is that he does not fearmonger nor romanticize or demonize cryptids. He just speaks about them as they are, as unidentified animals or spirits and creatures. So when he talks about it, saying it has young, it was probably aggressive because it has young, because crawlers aren't usually aggressive. Honestly, through my research I've done, crawlers are not aggressive. They're only aggressive if they're actually threatened, and they do give warnings with body language, and they also scream and screech very, very loud when they're distressed or upset. So, a bit of like evil, because they're not evil. They're just, some of them some of them have bad intention. This isn't our planet. We're just on it.
In 2012, a Reddit user with the handle TossO described his own brush with a similar creature in an unidentified national park in Newfoundland in the summer of 2010. While cruising through a barren valley one moonlit night, the poster saw a large, stocky, naked, humanoid creature crawling rapidly towards a stretch of road that lay before him. The creature was completely hairless, and its skin was, quote, a deathly, nauseating white with a greasy shine, unquote. As he approached the creature, the poster observed that it, quote, had a rubbery face, distorted by hate or a scream, and black eyes that reflected in the moonlight, unquote.
My social circle includes mostly actually people. Imagine living around good people.
The poster was horrified by the creature's facial expression, which gave him the impression that, quote, it was intelligent and wanted to tear him apart with its teeth. Similar to Don Herbert's creature, this monster appeared to be on a collision course with the poster's vehicle. I braced for it to run into my car door, the Redditor wrote, and then it was gone.
Furry Master 69, gay, furry, gay lover. So on. I thank you for coming. See you later. Bye. Love you.
Rearview mirror showed me nothing. TossO ended his post by voicing his suspicion, evocative of one of Don Herbert's theories, that the creature he witnessed was a demon. In 2017, Reddit user Bale Bonjman claimed to have encountered an emaciated, human-like figure while on a camping trip with his father somewhere in northern Ontario's cabin country when he was 9 or 10 years old. While canoeing on a lake with his father during a mussel hunting excursion, the Redditor caught a glimpse of something strange amidst the trees on the shore. I couldn't make it out very well, the Redditor wrote, but it was white, almost like the texture of birch, and very lanky. I remember thinking that it definitely wasn't a person, but it wasn't too far from the general shape of one. It was staggering around lethargically and slowly. If it was an animal, then something was definitely wrong with it. I waded over to my dad and told him to look up there, and by that point, it was gone. Later on in the post, the Redditor related other interesting, if unrelated, anecdotes regarding this particular camping spot, including one involving a strange humming noise that he and his father would sometimes hear in the nearby marshes, which was often preceded by sudden and utter silence, and another revolving around a small peninsula on the lake that was covered with mushrooms and dead trees and pervaded by a terrible stench. The Redditor ended his post with what he considered the most disturbing story regarding the lake on which he and his father would often vacation.
Hi, my name is Alina, and I would like you to give you a few reasons why you should consider dating a young...
Quote, I remember one morning I had woken up just before sunrise and was still in bed. In the window adjacent to my bed, I saw something that usually wasn't there. It was half a face poking around the edge of the window and staring into our cabin. Sickly pale orange with giant black holes where the eyes were supposed to be. This thing was definitely not human. I hid under the covers and eventually fell back to sleep. When I woke up again, everyone was also awake, and there was no sign of anything there. Crawlers are not the only creepypasta-esque creatures purported to wander the Canadian wilderness. In recent years, several Reddit users have claimed to have witnessed tall, thin, naked, bipedal humanoids bearing characteristics of both Slenderman and the Rake in various Canadian locales. One of these is Redditor LilybirdGK, who created a post in 2016 in which she described her boyfriend's strange encounter with a mysterious entity the previous summer. In August 2015, the poster and her boyfriend rented a cabin in the Ovens Natural Park, Nova Scotia, an area famous for its spectacular seaside cliffs and
That has nothing to do with the cryptids, but that's so fucking beautiful. Look at that. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than nature and the outdoors and the natural world, but like, oh my god, it's fucking beautiful. The caves with water in it are special. They're really, really special.
Many sea caves or ovens. They spent their first day in the park hiking a cliffside trail and exploring the area's eponymous formations. That night, the couple and a few of their friends settled down in their rented cabin for a game of cards.
Do you like Floppa? Of course I love Floppa. What about ice cream? Ice cream's good.
Poster's boyfriend lost gracelessly, his temper exacerbated by jokes directed at him by one of his friends, which were intended to poke fun at his stature. To cool off, he decided to go for a walk outside alone. When her boyfriend failed to return after half an hour, the anxious Poster called him on his cell phone. He did not answer her call, but quickly phoned her back and asked where she was. The Poster, somewhat confused, replied that she was still in the cabin. After a pause, the boyfriend declared that he was coming back immediately, his voice betraying a hint of alarm. When he finally arrived at the cabin, he told his girlfriend a disturbing tale.
Stupid bitch.
Quote, he had walked out to the trails to get some fresh air and sat down on one of the benches to look out at the ocean. The moon was pretty bright that night, so everything was illuminated pretty well. Then he heard someone walking by, and he saw this really tall and pale figure stop and look at him, and then continue on. For some reason, he assumed this was me coming to look for him, and that's when I called him and told him I was in the cabin. He said that, in retrospect, it was inhumanly tall and pale, thanks babe, and couldn't possibly be a person. He was not...
See, this is the... People try to rationalize things as much as they can when they see something freaky. And sometimes you just can't. And that's okay. That's fine. If you see something fucked up that you can't rationalize, that's completely normal. Those things exist. We're gonna see them. Not as common as everything else, but they're there.
Himself for the rest of the night and didn't seem normal until lunch the next day. Throughout the latter half of 2018, Reddit user MZULFT10989 posted about his own encounters with a strange entity which visited his property in the city of Quesnel in Central.
Alright, this is probably one of my personal favorite ones. It goes over an encounter with a cryptid that's just exploring human territory that also seems kind of scared of people, but it's very interesting. This one, the first one, this one, and the last one are gotta be my favorites.
British Columbia. The Redditor's first alleged encounter took place in the early summer, when he noticed an eerie humanoid creature, quote, running inhumanly fast through the field behind his house, before vaulting over a 5.5-foot tall fence and disappearing into the woods. This creature was emaciated, white-skinned, and, quote, at least 7 feet tall, with a gaping mouth and no eyes. Unlike the crawler that Don Herbert encountered, this creature was bipedal and ran with a man-like gait. In August 2018, the same Redditor published another post in which he claimed to have seen the mysterious creature again, this time at night, darting through a field on his property and jumping the fence into his neighbor's yard. 2 weeks later, the Redditor caught this same creature peering at him from around the side of his house. Frightened, he retreated indoors. Later, he examined the area at which the creature had stood and found scratch marks on the exterior of his house. In October 2018, the Redditor reported a third encounter.
I do find that one extremely neat, because I personally don't think it had ill intentions. I think it was just interested, and it was like, yo, what the fuck's that thing sitting on this wooden thing next to this big metal thing? Because it doesn't know what a house is, or what a deck is, or what a human is. It's just like, yo, what the fuck? And it's just figuring out its surroundings. And I personally think that it didn't have any malicious intent. It was just trying to learn about its surroundings, kind of like sharks do when they nibble on someone. As most sharks attacks are, sharks don't have hands, so they learn about their surroundings by biting stuff, and when they bite people, shark pups will bite people to figure out what they are and if they're food or not, or if they're safe. And once they do, and they realize why it's seen as attacks, but really it's just a little pup giving you a nibble, but because they're so strong, it doesn't just feel like a nibble.
While he was sitting outside on the back porch facing his field, the creature appeared and raced across his property, as it had done several times before. This time, however, it stopped in the middle of the field and turned to stare at the Redditor. Before the petrified Canadian had time to react, the creature ran down the field and leapt into his neighbor's yard. On another occasion, the poster saw the creature peering at him through his living room window. He ran upstairs to retrieve his hunting bow, with which he intended to protect himself, but...
I understand why he would get his hunting bow, because that's fucking creepy, but And crawlers really don't usually have malicious intent. They kind of just are curious, which is something that's really interesting about them, because they're not freaky, but they're interesting, and they're sometimes cute. I've heard encounters from someone who lives deep in the woods where there was one just resting on their lawn bed, on their porch bed, couch, and it was just, it's really sweet, because they don't want anything to do with us, and most people don't want anything to do with them. They just want to live their lives, but sometimes that gets tangled up in our lives, and they improvise, so we have to too.
The time he returned downstairs, the creature was gone. The subject of the Redditor's fourth and final post took place in November 2018, about 2 weeks after his previous encounter. This time, the man found the creature staring into his barn through an open window. The entity apparently learned that it was being watched, turned to face the Redditor, and emitted a piercing shriek before running into his neighbor's yard and into the woods.
Now, this was the last encounter, which is interesting, because lost my train of thought. But it's interesting because as soon as it noticed that it was being watched and that the human, or the creature to it, that what it didn't know was looking at it, it felt like it was being hunted. It was scared, and it left and didn't come back. And it left out a screech, which is something humanoids do as a warning call or when they're in distress. So this goes to just prove my thought process of saying that it doesn't have malicious intent. It's just curious. And they're probably more scared of us than we are of it.
Although it's not exactly a Canadian crawler story, the author of this book has decided to end this chapter with a lightly edited audio clip sent to him by a lovely lady from southern United States named Missy Sterling. Several years ago, Sterling had her own encounter with a strange, pale humanoid creature on a highway in Alabama. Her experience has several interesting congruencies with that told by Dawn Herbert, of which she was unaware at the time. Specifically, both Missy and Dawn encountered their creatures while driving. Both subsequently struggled to rationalize the event in their minds, and both, in the aftermath of their encounters, developed fears regarding their sanity. The following is Sterling's own.
Most crawler encounters happen like that, because, as I've said before, they want fucking nothing to do with us. But at night, when there's not many people out, and they're crossing the roads to get to their homes, or to get to somewhere they need to hunt, or to get food from, and they run into a person that they're not used to seeing, people are going to be confused. It's going to be confused. And then it's going to scream and run away, which is what they usually do.
An account of her encounter.
It's been a couple years. I was on my way home from my mother's house. She lives in Alabama, and I live in Mississippi, right on the state line. So Columbus, Mississippi to Vernon, Alabama. And I'm driving down the road, and up ahead, like, I can see something in the road. And so I think, it's a deer. These roads are heavily populated in the wintertime with deer. Really.
I'm listening. Because I really want to watch my funky little cryptid documentary.
Summer too, anytime. There's deer everywhere. So I start slowing down, and by the time I get on this thing, I'm at a complete stop, and I'm looking at it, and I'll be completely honest, I pissed myself, because it was like, this was nothing I had ever seen. And I had this experience where, I don't know, my brain, it was like running patterns and coming up with nothing. And this thing, it looked like it was a baby. It was smaller. And I don't know where I got this sense from, but I thought like it was a kid, like not a human kid though, because this thing, it was like a weird white color. It was chalk, like I said, chalk white. and it had these huge eyes, and they reflected my headlights, but they were black. It had like maybe it looked like a slit for a mouth, and it looked terrified. Like I also got the sense that it was just as scared as I was, and it was.
This part of the documentary really made me think. I know this is gonna sound fucking cheesy, but it really made me think about how they see us from their perspective. They don't know what we're more terrifying to them than they are to us, because while humans do have some exposure to creepy stuff, they don't. And they're completely wild animals, and their response to seeing a huge metal box with something inside that looks like similar to them but isn't is gonna scare them, and their fight or flight response is gonna kick in. And of course, for this one that was young, it's gonna freeze, and they're gonna be scared. They're not gonna know what the fuck to do. They're of course not as intelligent as humans, but they're definitely not stupid. They are intelligent creatures. They don't have the ability to speak. We don't really know much about if they craft things. From what I know, they don't. But they are relatively smart animals, and they're just. It makes me think about how shit could be if people weren't so threatening to the wildlife. We could probably have a relationship with these creatures if they felt comfortable enough to meet someone.
Frozen, kind of like a deer in headlights. And I was too, I for a second I froze. I don't even know how long I was sitting there in the middle of this road, just stopped with this thing in front of my vehicle, also stopped. When I got up on it, it was on all fours, and then it stood up and walked off, and its movements, it was very jerky, and
the drawing, I know.
Nothing I'd ever seen. So when this thing stood up on it, when I was in the road, it stood up on its two legs and took off. This screech, it let out this screech, and it was, I'm getting chills right now. And I just, I noped the fuck out of there. I was still I felt like I was scrambled, like I couldn't get myself together. And so I get up the roadways and I pull over and I cried. I had to go home and change my pants, but I got this sense that this thing was just as scared as I was. I got home and I didn't say anything at first because you wonder if you're crazy, if you hallucinated. You try to do anything to rationalize the experience because it is completely irrational. And so then I started telling people about it, and I was surprised that, no one really made fun of me. They were a bit freaked out, but I hadn't found anyone that had experienced anything similar. And some time goes by, and I can't let it go, and I start looking online, and I came across this video completely by accident, but this guy called Richard Greb.
I was watching this video earlier because I really needed some cryptid nostalgia, and this is an iconic cryptid sighting video from the early 2010s. It's really good, it's very authentic, and I love it.
Nick, he has a video up, and he's filmed this thing in his backyard, like through his porch screen. And when I saw the video, like chills ran down my spine because the movements, the whiteness of this thing, it was, unmistakable. And it's just, the video comments are full of people saying, oh, this is fake. There's a naked crackhead in your yard. But you can hear this guy on the phone with his preacher. He called his preacher, and he is just freaked out. And, he asked the preacher to start praying, and the guy does. And you can tell that he is very obviously freaked out. But more than anything, the movement of this thing is what made me believe that it was a 100% authentic video. I don't know, man. I don't know what this is, but I think there's definitely something going on. I don't see how someone could recreate that, especially, and there's another video from Canada, actually, and you may have heard of this when it was pretty popular, of some white creature stalking a moose on the roadside. And everybody says, well, it's a smudge on the window. And the first time I saw the video, and this could just be my mistake, but I swear it was a lot clearer. And maybe I'm wrong, but even still, with it as blurry as it is, I don't see how anyone can say this is a smudge on the window. And it's those same jerky type movements. I mean, obviously, I can't account for the authenticity of any of them because I didn't record them. But I can account for the authenticity of my own experience. And it happened, and I saw it. It was there, man, you know?
If you'd like to learn more about Missy Sterling's experience, or about her subsequent investigation into the crawler phenomenon, please check out her own video on the subject, which you can find by clicking the link in the description.
That is my favorite one in this documentary. I know all of them are good. All of them are very good. Some of them I'm not as interested in, but all of them are extremely authentic. All of them are extremely real, at least to me. And I love all of them, but this one just feels different. She goes over videos and things that I know of, and she speaks from her perspective of knowing that the creature also has feelings, and I feel like that makes the story, or not the story, but her encounter so much more, I don't know, feelable. I'm not sure what to call it. But it feels it's just the best one. It's just the best one. I love how she describes the creature, and I love how she describes how it looked like a juvenile or like a baby. And I also love how she described about how she thought it seemed scared, and how she was also scared, but it seemed more scared than her. And I love how she was respectful towards it. It's a lovely encounter. And all of these really go to show that crawlers, or ashmen, or pale men, whatever you want to call them, aren't inherently aggressive. Of someone having an encounter with a crawler where the crawler was aggressive, or even, like, remotely interested in attacking. And I know in this one it said, I know there's really nothing like it. And I'm so glad that I'm able to study it and learn about it, because I know I might be looked down on it for it, but it makes me happy. And it's good to know about the world. It's good to know about what lives around us. And there are a lot of people in the comments explaining encounters as well, such as here. I live in the UK, and a few years ago I was on a night walking with my partner. It was a cool peninsula going towards the ocean. At the end of the walk was an ancient Roman settlement that was used in the World Wars to spy enemy ships. They also practiced the bouncing bomb. Old buildings from the war are left open public. Luckily, no homeless people have camped in the buildings, probably because it's too far away from shops or any food sources, and it gets really cold. We saw a dead badger on the path while walking outwards towards the ancient settlement. Thought nothing of it, just moved our dog away from the body, as the badgers can carry many diseases, and then we walked on. Once we got to the end, we walked over to the cattle grid and entered the grounds. We swapped our small torches for more powerful ones. When we got inside, I thought it was comparable to a small village: halls, kitchens, cellars for gunpowder, toilets, accommodation halls with fireplaces, old gun rooms with open skies, dark hallways under the ground, and other random buildings. The dog growled for the few times, which was typical for him to do. But when we began to leave and walk back up the hill, we stopped halfway to put the torches in. And that's when I saw it. About 9 feet tall, a lanky, pale as milk, whatever that thing was just had me frozen. It wasn't charging at us, it was just staring at me. Not my partner, just me. For what felt like an eternity, or only a minute, it was only a minute or two. The pale was highlighted by the moon. The pale skin was highlighted by the moon. Naked and bald, it stood at the bottom of the hill, in the door of the settlement, as if it couldn't escape. Tears filled my eyes, as do now as they do now, thinking back on it, it was one of the scariest moments in my life. It's comparable to a night terror, but I was awake and conscious. My partner finished up with the torches, and I came over to check if I was okay. They get frightened easily, so I didn't want to tell them. Yet, as we had a 45-minute walk back to the truck in the middle of the night, obviously they couldn't see the state was I in, so I told them half the story. I told them I saw something and I was frightened, leaving the details for the car ride back. I have a missing memory, as I can't remember how I lost sight of the thing. Maybe it's when my partner was done packing bag. Maybe I took my eyes off it and disappeared into its territory. On the walk back, the badger was gone. A fox probably dragged it off or something. That didn't help the anxiety I was having, though. I walked so fast to get back. When we got to the truck, I told them everything. Once they had experience at that place, too. They went with a friend in the daytime and down a dark corridor that was sealed off from the public. One of the only places we couldn't go into. It had bars on the front door, so he could still clearly see down it. He saw a black figure with a prominent, sharp, pointed-looking head. The creepy thing is, the door with bars is next to the entrance where I saw that gangly creature. It's odd. We never speak about it. I pass it off as if I was daydreaming or hallucinating, sleep deprivation or something. To this day, I'm still not sure what to think. Why didn't the dog sense it? I know he growled, though more than usual. Why didn't it attack us or do anything? Well, when we were inside the buildings. The only thing I could think of is it wanted me to be scared so it could feed off my terrified emotions. LOL, sounds like a horror cliche. I'm not religious. I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in ghost eaters. I don't believe in mythical beasts. I'm very down to earth. That's why I've struggled for 3 years to understand what I saw. I just can't explain it. It's the closest thing, I'm not going to say that. It's not some old story I can just pass off. It happened to me in 2019. Hopefully living my story here can remove a part of that experience for myself. And that's fucking terrifying, dude. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so there's a bunch of people in the comments talking about their experiences. My grandfather said when he was a boy, his father and uncles caught a humanoid creature with pale skin and big black eyes. He said it was remnant to a crying like child. They didn't know what else to do, so they let it go. Around the time of the cattle mutilations in the area, Mexico, also Mr. Ballin has a story called Valley of the Headless Men, which mentions pale creatures. I've seen a beast exactly like this one last summer. It had a long tail. It was able to go around its waist. It tried sniffing us out, but attacked the humongous dog next door. Didn't kill the dog, just flew away after scaring the shit out of it. When I seen it, looked to be 6 feet tall, walking on all fours. Damn. Okay, that's definitely not anything similar to this, but okay. Very, very just amazing sightings, amazing encounters. I love it. I love it so much. It makes me so happy. Special thank you to witnesses Don Herbert, Missy Sterling, artists Levi Lord, Demon Girl 999, Critical, and photographers B. Spore, Daniel Cook, Daniel Cock, Christian Skilling, executive production from yeah, so that video will never get old. I cannot stress that no matter how many times I watch this, it will never, ever get old. It's always just as enthralling and interesting every single time, and I feel like every single time I come out learning something new and having a new view on cryptids. It's so special. Thank you for coming to listen to me ramble about this for like an hour. It means a lot to me, and I'm glad that I was able to share this with you and other people who were here. So thank you so much. Have a nice night, and goodbye. Hi, I'm back. I think I can spare another hour. I don't know if I should just cover what happened or if I should show you. But I don't want to just drag on a random live stream just to show you something. But I also totally do. I gotta think about this one. There was another thing at the end, and I'm gonna watch it instead of just this. Actually, that was what they were talking about in the video. I'm gonna click on the little end credit so I can save the video for later, but
thanks for watching NBC 33 News Morning Edition. The time is 6:26. Okay, so you know how we ask you to send in your pics so we can put them in our newscast? Well, you got to see what one viewer claims his friend found at a hunting camp in Berwick. I really don't even know what that is. The guy who sent it in didn't want us to mention his name, but tells us this is totally for real. He says last weekend his friend's family...
But in the video, they talk about,
I was hangry, and that's why I started Daily Harvest. Working long hours, eating lunch at like 3 p.m., running to and from appointments. The thing is, I knew how to eat well, right?
This was what they were talking about. I'm going to turn my brightness up just to be able to see it. But in the back...
Hey, Mike, I need you.
Hey, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? I've been putting the iPad off this far out, and it happened.
The video everyone
this
remembers,
time at night.
if you were into the little cryptid videos. This is also another that everyone remembers. And then this is probably the most viral one that happened. I love them. They're so special. They're so interesting. They're beautiful. They're terrifying and confusing, but they're beautiful. Alright, I'm gonna actually end it now, but thank you so much for just listening to me ramble about my little cryptids. I hope you all have a nice night or day or whatever time it is for you.